Hi, this is Sarah Means. I'm a solution consultant here at ServiceNow, and today we're going to be walking you through our HR application and how that application can help you consumerize the employee service experience. Before we jump into the demo, we're going to take a look at just a couple of slides to set the stage and the context for what we're going to be talking about today. First of all, we've noticed in the marketplace that employee service expectations have really shifted. In our personal lives, as I imagine many of you on your smart device have applications like OpenTable, Uber, Amazon, the list really goes on and on. And in our personal lives, we have these great applications that allow us to really be empowered to do things, be empowered to request services, make those services very fast and easy, and deliver them to me in a way that's really never been done before. Now, what we found is there's actually a really big gap between our personal lives and how we do that and our professional lives and what we do in our day-to-day work activities. We actually found that we're about 10 years behind where we are in the personal experience to be able to provide those types of tools and experiences in a work environment. And you can see some of the quotes here of an ideal situation to be empowered, to be able to have tools that actually help you manage your day-to-day activities instead of impeding your work life, which actually is what we've found in a lot of the organizations that we talk with. Now, taking that into account and comparing that to what ServiceNow can do, let's take a little bit of an approach to understand where ServiceNow fits in this discussion. Sometimes I think there's a little bit of confusion around, are we a replacement? Are we integrating with other tools? How does that work? So basically, let's take a situation of a regular employee. It doesn't matter what department that employee is with. They could be finance, payroll, HR, IT. All of those employees have questions. It could be, when is open enrollment? How do I begin that process? I think I saw something on my paycheck that I don't understand. Can I do tuition reimbursement? All of these questions are involving various HR departments and perhaps other departments like IT, facilities, etc. But we also have information and systems of record that house a lot of the answers that we need. Those systems of record could be Workday, SuccessFactors, Ultimate Software. Again, there's quite a long list there. However, the problem is when we try and get solutions. Right? So when an employee asks those questions, the departments do their best to provide answers, but it's not always the easiest thing. They might have to go to multiple systems of record, which is very common in most organizations, to even find a solution, and then they have to email that person back or call them, and there really isn't any visibility, there isn't any consistency in those experiences, and it takes a long time. Instead of being fast and easy, HR is now really bogged down with those administrative activities. So where ServiceNow fits in is, of course, kind of in the middle, taking away all of those unnecessary arrows and interactions to be that place in which employees can engage. Now, what that means is employees can go to perhaps a portal page that is very consumable for them and consumerized for them to have the information that they need. That could include knowledge articles or even include just the ability to chat with an HR representative. So that way they can engage with those systems of record by integrations to allow us to pull and push data from those sources of record, as well as engage with the departments to allow them to use automation to push the work between them and to gain visibility both as the employee and as an individual in one of those departments to make sure that they're able to really just improve visibility on both sides. Now, just a couple of quick success stories. We have a lot of really successful HR customers. These are a couple of the great return on investments that we've seen out there so far. And we have many more in the works as well, right? So a couple of these are really big, actually all of these are really quite big name organizations that most of you are probably familiar with. And these are not trivial items. Companies, for example, like Overstock were able to take back almost 1,000 days annually by just automating some of their processes, by getting onboarding as a part of that process. So think about some of these metrics and think about your own process, and is there a way to automate? Is there a way to perhaps get a very high return on investment by organizing this and really making your employee experience a lot better? Finally, we really have a great opportunity here at ServiceNow to provide that HR-based solution. So at the top, you can see a couple of our core solutions that we're offering. Some of you might be already familiar with our IT offering, but I want to highlight that HR isn't something that we're just kind of casually supporting. We have a dedicated HR solution. It's something that we've been building and working on for a while. We have a dedicated HR business unit that has thought leaders and individuals that are really pushing this product forward. So it's something we will continue to support, continue to provide enhancements to down the line. So you can continue to look for those updates as each new release comes out. In addition to that, HR gets access to all of our platform-based information. So that means the way that our data centers and our security is situated. It means our workflow engine, the catalog functionalities, being able to have a portal page and things like notifications and subscriptions to get folks involved and reminders to make sure that they're completing their activities. So there's all sorts of ways in which you can leverage these platform-based items to reap the benefits in HR, just like IT did quite a while ago with some of our other solutions, right? So lots of opportunities here to be able to provide this in the context to make sure that HR can be really that consumerized application and that we can understand and get visibility into all of that information, right? So let's go ahead and take a look at the demo. We're going to be taking a look at a couple of different personas just to give you an idea of how those individuals are engaged throughout the process and just to get you thinking of some of the ways that you might be able to add some value within your own HR department. So we're starting out as this individual, Mara. So Mara has logged into the HR portal. And Mara is, in any context, just a regular employee, not necessarily an HR employee. In my instance, she actually works in the finance department, and she's looking for some answers and looking to check up on some of the things that she's requested of HR. So this portal page can be branded to look and feel like your website or the experience that you're wanting to provide to those users. And it gives them access to, little bits of information around maybe upcoming events or announcements that might be relevant and dynamic for, what this individual does. Based off of Mara's title, her location, and her position within the company, she might have access or less access to specific pieces of data that are presented to her. So it's a very dynamic experience depending on who I am. Mara also has access to quite a bit of information about herself. She could make changes to her name or to her location, perhaps if she moved. That way we can make sure that she's very easily able to adjust that information without even necessarily having to engage with HR. Mara also has a couple of outstanding tasks and activities that have been assigned to her, and she's even completed a couple of them. For example, most of these activities have to do with an onboarding process that she's already initiated for one of the new hires on her team. So she has to get the cubicle set up and get the background check scheduled, but the other activities have already been completed, and we can see a record of that. She also has a record of some of the other cases that she has opened, things like employment verification and that onboarding request that I mentioned. So depending on what you want to present to your users, whether you want to incorporate social media or even schedule-based information that just maybe is common in a lot of the questions you're receiving, you can make sure that the portal is a place where you can provide that. Now, Mara took a master's course a couple of months ago, and she wants to submit a tuition reimbursement request to get back some of that money that she paid for that course. So she's not really too sure where to go just yet. But if we go ahead and just search for tuition, we're presented with a variety of options, right? There's 2 articles that are talking about tuition and do we even have a tuition reimbursement program and what does that program look like? But we already know information about that. Mara's already familiar with the program. Perhaps she's done it before. But we can see that there are 2 options here to either ask a question about it or to just go ahead and submit that tuition request itself. That's presenting us with the opportunity to fill out a predefined form, and these questions can be completely up to your organization. HR can decide what information is pertinent for the different types of services that they provide. If we were asking for benefits questions or benefits information, of course we'd be looking for much different information that's presented here. So that way, when HR receives this request, they can make sure that they have all the mandatory information that's included here. And we'll say that she's completed this maybe a month ago, so mid-January, and she's requesting $5,000 for reimbursement of that course. Now, if I was concerned or curious about the amounts that are available, we have the knowledge article right here to take a closer look at that. But for the moment, we're just going to go ahead and submit this basic information. Right? Immediately, we're presented with a couple of updates that let Mara know that, hey, your case was created. We can even go here to view it. And we can also see that because Mara is actually an executive in the finance department, she's actually been elevated to a VIP status. So the supervisors on the HR department have been notified that she's looking to produce that request. So we can follow that as well. Let's also take a look at that open case that I submitted before. I told you that we were looking for some employment verification. Because we took that master's course and because Mara is interested in purchasing a home, the bank is requiring her to produce an employment verification letter, a very common request that typically takes a little bit of time for HR to produce. Now what we can see here is we've actually already received the attachment. So Mara is actually pretty much completed with this activity. We can open up the PDF and see what that looks like. But we can also go through and see the activity that's been going on. It looks like initially when Mara created this request, she requested of Tim to expedite this a little bit because she needs it by Friday for the bank process, right? We want to make sure that we get that in before they close. Now, Timothy responded that he's working on it. He even sent her the letter and let her know that this is completed. So Timothy on the HR side has been engaged multiple times, giving her direct visibility. So we can basically respond maybe with a thank you or with a, acceptance of that closure, just to let Timothy know that we've actually received that I'm okay with it, and that we're good to close out this case until next time in case I ever need to refer back to this document for whatever reason. The last thing that we're going to do is one of Mara's employees just told her that she's pregnant and she's going to be having a baby, and she was asking Mara about some of the benefits information. Now, while they're both talking about this, what we can do is actually search again, the knowledge base of information to see what types of benefits this employee might be receiving. Now, Mara and her employee are both based in the US. They're actually both based in California. So we can see that there's an option here that talks about the different benefits abilities for US-based employees. So now Mara can go through and actually read this article, and I think this is a great example of a really visual knowledge-based article. Not all articles have to be just text and bullet points. This one shows a great timeline of when to request your benefits, what types of benefits you can receive, and some of this information as well around the steps that you need to take. So you can actually include video content in your knowledge-based articles, pictures like this, links to other places if need be. And we're going to be tracking every time somebody views this. If you want to have the rating system turned on to allow individuals to rate the articles, we can do that as well. So now Mara is fully informed about that process. She's even going to be prepared for when her employee requests that leave off and how much time she'll be missing her. So now we have a lot more information at our fingertips, and we're even directed to other pieces of data and information if we need to, if we didn't really find what we were looking for. And let's actually go down that path. Let's say that Mara went through this and she understands everything, but maybe a part of this article was a little bit confusing to her, and she doesn't necessarily want to go all the way over to HR. So what we're going to do is just open up a quick chat to see if we can get her questions answered. Right, so we'll just pop this open. And the chat queue is a great way for individuals to engage with HR and to be presented with some quick information and hopefully get a quick answer without feeling like they have to call someone or be on hold for a long time. Right, so now we're understanding that the average wait time is about 3 minutes. Mara can wait here, she can add context while she's waiting, and as soon as a representative is available, they can hop on and begin to engage with her and hopefully clarify her question that she has about this article. So those are just a couple of things that you can do with the portal. There's a number and a variety of additional options and services that can be presented. It just depends on what your company wants to do. So what we're going to do now is take a step back and work as our HR agent, answer Mara's question in the chat functionality, and then go through and work some of the other cases that have been sent through to the HR department. So if we take a look here, Timothy is the individual that I'm logged in as now. Timothy is day in and day out just an HR individual that's going to be answering questions, maybe working and manning the chat queue, and maybe just even as a team supervisor, tracking the other team members, making sure that the team SLAs are being met, and just understanding what types of cases are coming in so that if he needs to do some extra training or a refresher to maybe get up to speed on some of the new documentation before maybe benefits cases come in, he can do so as well. Right? So he has a nice dashboard here that gives him information on critical cases, cases that maybe haven't been assigned yet, maybe even some open cases here. We can see that benefits, of course, is by and large the most popular item and question that we get asked about. So it's a nice way for us to understand that information. Now, if we open this up, we can see that there's a couple of questions in here around the chat, right? So we have Mara's question that came in. We can see that in a past conversation, we can open this up and let's do a full point view here just to get a full, a little bit of a larger screen. We can see that this chat that she's been working on, we can go ahead and accept it and start to engage with her, right? So in this example, we can see she asked about having a baby. We can maybe ask her a couple of questions about that article. What doesn't she understand? Right, and start to go back and forth with her. So we can even see that she's online by the little presence indicator on her profile. So if I'm looking for more information, I can look up and see who exactly is Mara, where is she located. Maybe I can give her a call if she's asking me for maybe a little bit more of a one-on-one experience outside of the chat. And now we can go through and maybe search for additional articles that might be beneficial to her. We're open to all of the knowledge bases that this individual has access to. So maybe there's a secondary, more detailed knowledge base for HR agents that he can read up on some detailed documentation about that policy so that he can really answer her question as effectively as possible. Now, in this case, maybe we can go back and forth, and I won't chat too much with Mara just for the sake of time here, but hopefully we can answer her question about this. But let's say that for whatever reason, we couldn't. Maybe Mara is asking a very specific question and Timothy really doesn't have the expertise to handle that. He could go ahead and transfer this to a specialist or another individual that's working in the queue, or he could go ahead and open a case for her. In this case, what we would do is open a case to be able to track that in a little bit more detail, maybe involve a couple of individuals to work on that, like I said, in a little bit more detail to get her solution available for her. So we have a couple of options here. If we aren't able to provide her that solution, even move it to something like an incident, which is an IT-based item. If for whatever reason Mara's asking about something that might be a technical issue, which sometimes happens, sometimes people don't really know where to go. And if the question comes in, Timothy is enabled to push that to the appropriate team and make sure that she talks to the correct individual, regardless of what department she started with. All right, so let's say we engaged with her, we finished everything we were talking about. We're gonna go ahead and end that session so that we don't have to worry about that. And we'll go ahead and close out this queue for now. The other thing that we can do is take a look at all of Timothy's cases that he's working on, right? We have a list of cases at the bottom, and this is helpful. We can see a couple of the different things that he's working on, but let's say that he just got into the office and he wants to prioritize his work a little better because we can see there's a couple of items here that seem to be a little bit higher and lower, but there's also some VIP prioritization in here, so I'm a little bit confused as to what I should be doing. So what we can do is enable our employees to use a couple of different methods for working on their activities. This is an example of using a Kanban style board for Timothy to actually prioritize his work for the day. So we can see all of the cases that are in here, and here's that tuition reimbursement request. And we know that that's something that Mara requested immediately. And we know that it typically takes a little bit longer sometimes to get that documentation. So I'm gonna start that immediately so that I can make sure that that gets completed on time and that we're able to actually execute and not breach that SLA. There's a couple of other things here that are in my high priority list. I can see this employment verification letter. I know that these letters are typically generated very quickly, and it looks like this one is actually already completed. I'm just waiting on some feedback from Mara. So we can go ahead and maybe move this down to the lower priority because I do know that that takes less time. Timothy's also involved in some of these onboarding activities, so we might want to move some of these into some of the other priorities just in case, because we do want to make sure that our employees are onboarded as quickly as possible, and then we're able to meet the needs of these different maybe payroll or new hire documentation that's being provided. So kind of a neat place for him to go to see all of this information. Like I said, this is one particular way that you could choose to work. We could go into each of these requests and see the different checklist items that we need to complete. We can see the conversations that are being had. So in this case, we need to go through a process of checking the transcript and making sure that that's approved. So let's go ahead and go into this case here and take a look at just exactly what's happening. So here's our case of tuition reimbursement. This is the one that we submitted earlier as Mara. We can see the timeline up at the top of the engagements that Mara has been having with Timothy so far, and we can see that she's a VIP individual, right? We've already been engaging with her, so we know exactly who she is. But if you ever needed more information, that is always available to you in their profile to see where they're located, maybe some of their basic information. And in this example, we have a couple of things that have happened. Now, you might have noticed that this case was automatically assigned to Timothy. Now, the reason that that happened is because Timothy has the skill set of HR benefits. So what that means is this type of request, this tuition reimbursement, needs to have the skill set of an HR benefits individual. So when this came through, Timothy was automatically selected based off of the skill sets that he's been granted. So this means that you can assign cases immediately to the correct individual, and they're not bouncing around to different people or to different groups just because you don't know who to assign it to. So it's a great option to do a quick and easy assignment. We can also do auto assignment based off of things like location, individual information, or maybe just a basic group assignment if that makes it easy. The other thing to keep in mind is there's some basic information located on this case, but we could always adjust this if there's additional information you require, or if you don't think that you need some of this specific information, we could always remove that. So let's take a look at the instructions here. Now it says we need to attach a copy of the final grade transcript. We need to make sure that the files are here. The second thing is we're presented with that knowledge article about tuition reimbursement. So Timothy might want to read up on this if he's not sure the amount that Mara is requesting is acceptable, right? She requested $5,000. Is that within our policy requirement? We could always double check that here to be sure. But the first thing is we need to check the transcript and grades. Now, it looks to me that Mara actually didn't provide the transcript. So Timothy is going to go ahead and say that he's accepting this case and starting the work, but he needs to engage with Mara and let her know that we actually need her transcript first. Right? So we're just asking her to provide that, and we can now go back and forth between one another to collect that. So if she did have our transcript, she could drag and drop that and provide that as an attachment, which Timothy would immediately have access to. Now, since we are reaching back out to Mara, I can see that she's online because, again, the green dot is visible. However, she might be doing other things. So just because she's online doesn't necessarily mean that she will have this maybe in just the couple of minutes that I would ideally like it. So what we're going to do is just go ahead and follow this case. Following the case is basically like following things on social media. It's going to give Timothy some basic information about the case that he's following and allow him to receive notifications on any updates. So you'll notice that I just put a little update here to let me know that I'm now following this case. And now if Mara responds back, we'll get a little update in our Connect functionality and even an email notification letting me know that she responded so that I could go back immediately and review that transcript item. So that was a quick overview of Timothy as kind of an agent perspective to see some of the activities that he's working on and to be able to track some of the things that are happening. Whether he's using that task board or using his dashboard to drill into some of this information, he's going to have access to quite a bit to make sure that he can successfully execute on all of these requests that are coming into him, regardless of if it's a benefits question or payroll question, whatever skill set and whatever team that he's a part of, he'll have access to that information that he needs to successfully get back to the individuals that ask those questions. Now, to wrap up the demo, we're going to take a look at a third and final persona. This persona is of Rebecca. So Rebecca is an HR manager, which means that she's managing a team of, let's say, HR payroll specialists. So within her team, she needs to be able to track and understand each of those individuals, what their workload is, how many cases they're working on, what types of cases are we receiving, and even information about knowledge base articles around perhaps payroll, and even some of the surveys against some of the cases that her team is working. So this is an example dashboard of what she might be presented with on a daily basis. We can see she has a report on the right that talks about all of the team members that she works with. So we can see their caseload, and it's pretty clear that there's 2 or 3 people that are taking on a significant amount of work. Those might be the specialists or kind of our tier 3 subject matter experts, but we shouldn't be overloading them with work. So we might want her to use those task boards to distribute this work a little bit more evenly and to find out why some individuals are only working on 1 or 2 cases when some of the others have quite a bit more to do. We can also see that is our service initiative being successful? A lot of companies that we work with, they might implement the portal and be concerned about, are folks going to adopt it and what does that process look like? And we can help you get there and help you get folks involved. And this is a great report that shows, especially for her team, Rebecca has now visibility to see that most of the cases for her team actually come in through the self-service portal. It's actually a lot higher than any of the other types of ways that they might come in. Those could be email or in-person walk-ins or over the phone, maybe even over chat. So we're experiencing a really good uptick in the portal, which is great. That's less time that people are spending chatting and talking to those individuals and more time just getting their answers and submitting their cases. Right. So this is just an example of some of the more performance-based reporting for the teams, maybe timeline-based reporting, maybe understanding the different amount of work that each of these individuals are doing, how long on average cases are being opened, are SLAs being met to make sure that your team is successfully completing the cases in a timely manner and not letting them basically hang out to dry if they're forgotten about, because we absolutely do not want that. That would provide a pretty negative experience for whoever requested that. So this way we can keep a really great insight into what's happening and even go as far as understand some of the survey results of, what are people talking about? What are they thinking about after they've experienced an engagement with HR? Were they happy? Did they think it was easy? Did they think that it was done in a quick enough manner for them to, go about their day and not be worried or stressed out about their requests that they're making, right? Some of these requests with HR can be really personal, especially if it's something like an employee relations case, or if you are talking about benefits and you're experiencing some sort of issue and you need that benefits information immediately to be able to, maybe help you in a personal situation, right? We want to be able to make sure that we're providing the appropriate assistance. And now if you want to have those surveys after your cases, we can track and see, what were those lower scores? Why did we get them? We can drill into this and find out, what was the comment that said that the experience was pretty bad? How can I improve upon that and make my team better? So it's going to allow you to improve that as well and take all of this information and continue to provide that better and better experience for your employees and to even improve the portal to have that really consumable employment experience. Right? So that concludes our demo of the different individuals as a part of HR. If you guys do have additional questions or clarifications around anything that you saw today, or if you would like a deeper demonstration, maybe a little bit more personalized, please feel free to reach out to your local account representative and they'll be happy to work with you to get a secondary discussion going. Thanks, everyone.